Hi again, YouTube. Sorry for the crappy video quality that is entailing these videos. I'm just using the webcam that's on this laptop that the school provided for me. So, if I decide to do more videos when I get out of high school, I'll get a better camera, a better webcam, whatever, and start doing better quality videos. But, I'm thinking of, I'm going to do a review of Game of Thrones, Season 4, Episode 6, First of His Name, which is the episode that was on Sunday that I watched, and I thought it was really good and really worth talking about to people who actually understand the amazingness of the show and the book series. So I'm going to talk about it. Just warning you though that this review is going to have spoilers for what happens in the entire episode, because it is sort of impossible to talk about the episode without spoiling at least a little bit of what happens in the episode. So, first off, we have Stannis Baratheon and the Iron Knight. I forgot what his name is, but they're talking about their loss at Blackwater and taking back King's Landing. So, the Onion Knight goes to the brothel where his pirate friend is in like a pool with a bunch of naked women, and they start talking a little bit about that and about olden times and that kind of thing. And then after that storyline ends, the storyline of Theon Greyjoy's sister continues, because his sister wants to get Theon Greyjoy back, so she plans sort of a heist with a bunch of different soldiers on a boat, and they go in search of Theon Greyjoy, and when they eventually find Theon Greyjoy, after putting an axe in some dude's head, Theon Greyjoy is so crazy that he is too scared to even go with his sister, because he doesn't know who his sister is and what his sister wants with him. So he runs back to the cage and is gladly wants to be with the dogs where he was before. And then after a sort of gratuitous sex scene with Ramsay, who is Theon Greyjoy's captor, and a woman, Ramsay Snow gets out of the bed and he attacks the party that's looking for Theon Greyjoy, and sends the dogs after them, so they have no choice but to run, because they're not going to kill the dogs. They're not going to be able to. So Ramsay brings Theon Greyjoy to where he is staying, and tells Reek that he needs to act like Theon Greyjoy to get into some sort of castle, to do some sort of thing that is mysterious to the viewer at the moment. And by the way, like a small comment on the actor who plays Theon Greyjoy, he really commits to a role after being so much tortured in the third season of the show, which I'm assuming is the first half of the book, which is changed around a bit to fit television format on HBO. So he really does commit to a role, and in my opinion, he's a really great actor, and so is Ramsay Snow. In my opinion, every single actor in the entire television show really outshines themselves and is really good at acting and doing what they do. So, after the storyline of Theon Greyjoy and Ramsay Snow ends in that episode, the storyline of Daenerys Targaryen begins, when she is Queen of Meereen, and she is talking to a couple of people, one of which is the father, or the son of the father who got crucified in the last episode, and he at least wants to see his father buried instead of just left for dead like a dog. So Daenerys agrees to bury the father after he is of course crucified. So that ends that storyline. And then the next storyline is about is this a council at King's Landing featuring Varys, Lord Tywin, Lord Oberyn, and a couple other people. They're discussing the fact that they know that Daenerys Targaryen has built an army and has a bunch of dragons with her. That they want to send spies to go and find her, and perhaps even kill her before she can come back to King's Landing and wreak havoc with her dragons and her army, which does seem quite impossible because the dragon is pretty big, as we can tell earlier on in the episode, when the dragon swoops up and grabs a sheep from someone's plantation and farm and goes back to find Daenerys. And then we get to the final act of the episode, or the final storyline, which is Tyrion's trial. And oh my gosh, is the trial amazing. Like, Tyrion or Peter Dinklage, whichever you prefer, in the episode should win an Emmy just for the speech he gives alone, because he is being testified against by all of these so-called witnesses to the murder of King Joffrey, which happened in episode 2 of season 4, which I might get around to reviewing after I rewatch the episode one of these days. But anyway, and Shay, his once whore, comes into the courtroom and begins telling this bullcrap story about how Tyrion and Sansa Stark both plotted together to have King Joffrey dead because Sansa was whisked away by Littlefinger after the death of King Joffrey. So Tyrion turns to the crowd and he just wishes that everybody would just die, that he had enough poison to kill all the people of King's Landing who are just sitting there in the audience, not doing a single thing. And he also says that he wishes that he had killed King Joffrey, and that he wishes he was the monster that the people perceive him to be. And he turns toward his father, goes up to his father and says, "I'm guilty of a much more monstrous crime. I'm guilty of being a dwarf," which I think is one of the best lines of the entire season 4 episode of the show, in which I think that either this episode or the episode with the Purple Wedding episode when King Joffrey died, I think those are the two best episodes of season 4 of the show thus far, because so much emotion is conveyed in the characters and the actors who are playing the characters, who have to go through this whole entire mess of stuff that happens. And Tyrion, at the very end of the episode, is he says, "I want a trial by combat." And that's another really awesome line of the episode to conclude the episode, to see what happens next after he goes back to his cell to find who the person will be who he fights. And that was just a really well written episode that I think the actor Peter Dinklage should win an Emmy for just that scene alone, because his acting in that scene is so excellently written. I mean, his acting in the show is so excellently written. He's my favorite character in the book and the show, and he's one of the best actors in the entire show because of the intensity that he brings to the screen, similar to Bryan Cranston in Breaking Bad, which I'll have a review up for sometime. But yeah, the intensity that Peter Dinklage brings to the screen is so amazing, and the way he can act Tyrion from the books is just so really, really amazing, that he should just win an award for just that scene alone. Because even though his acting is so good in the show, his acting is especially good in that one little 15-minute scene that is at the very end of the episode, which gets me excited for the next episode and more of the episodes to come of season 4 of Game of Thrones. So this is my review of Game of Thrones, First of His Name. But one more thing before I leave. I overall thought that it was a really well written episode, especially the last 15-minute scene. I thought that a lot of the parts of the episode were filler, but with Game of Thrones you know that if there's a filler episode, there's something big that's going to come in the next episode or two of the show. So, yeah. But I thought that the last 15 minutes of the show was well worth all of the filler that happened throughout the entire episode. So I would give this episode of the show a 10 out of 10 stars for Peter Dinklage's speech in the end of the episode and how amazing his acting is throughout the entire show. So yeah, that is my review of Game of Thrones First of His Name. I'll be back with more reviews soon. Bye, YouTube.